Searching the web for the most talented, creative, and intriguing independent authors.
I felt like the fish on the end of a line, the catch of some unseen monstrosity in the dark.
The Emit Blackwell Show, diving into the creative minds of sci-fi, fantasy, horror, and paranormal authors. Their fantasy is our reality. Hello, and welcome once again to the Emit Blackwell Show. Thank you so much for listening, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. On this episode, I will be speaking with YouTube creator, author, and artist, Penny Tailsup. We discuss her approach to the YouTube writing world, her artwork, and how she builds her characters with a funny story involving her mother. We will also put her Harry Potter knowledge to the test in a quiz at the end of the show, so stay tuned for that. So, without any further ado, let's take a listen to Penny's work with this delightfully chilling tale titled Neon Nylon Strings.
I've always had an aversion to the cracks between things. You know, tiny dark spaces where a hand barely fits but often ventures, in search of something lost. It's always something important you lose in those places, isn't it? Car keys, a watch, a cell phone. Things that will have you groping the darkness without much thought. The worst for me was the cracks in the couch, those narrow pockets of darkness. It wasn't a rational fear, but knowing that didn't help. I took measures to avoid searching there, obsessively keeping track of my things so I wouldn't lose them in the first place. For example, my keys always hung in the same place, and my cell phone was either charging or clipped to my pants. The television remote took a little more ingenuity. Even though I had a place for it, it always had a way of ending up between the cushions. I'd know exactly where it was, and go fishing in the cracks with a pair of tongs because I couldn't bear sticking my hand down there. I was tired of living like that. I hated myself for being afraid of something so benign. I couldn't help it, though. I had an instinct that all the logic in the world couldn't shake. I thought I'd found the perfect solution when I found the string. Braided neon nylon, I bought a spool of orange, the color of construction crews and traffic cones. I tied a string around the remote, leaving 6 feet of length to dangle and drape over the coffee table. It worked beautifully. The remote was always easy to find. That string was easy to see. When the remote inevitably found its way between couch cushions, I'd reel in the string at a strategic angle. It worked well. Why wouldn't I try it with other things too? I bought more neon nylon string. Several spools in different colors, orange, yellow, and green. I tied them to everything small and easily lost. My headphones, my charger, the kitchen scissors. Even the salt and pepper shakers. It worked so well I brought the strategy out of the house too. I tied the yellow strings to things that should always be on my person. My phone, my keys, my wallet. If I ever saw yellow, I'd know I lost something. My pockets were always bulging with balls of yellow string. For peace of mind, it was a small price to pay. At work, I tied green strings to things that fall in that space between the wall and the desk, the pens, tape, and stapler. It was an orderly chaos, those neon nylon strings. There was a method to my madness, but no one else understood it. When my boss called me into the office about the complaints, I did my best to explain. He didn't get it. But he couldn't make me stop. I could do whatever I wanted, so long as the items were my personal property, and I wasn't tying them on company time. With time, my house resembled an art project rather than a living space. Bright orange strings draped across every surface in every direction, carefully laid out, strategically placed. Walking around became an exercise in balance and flexibility, but still, it was worth it. Of course, there is no such thing as a perfect solution. The problems with this method of organization began to present themselves before long. The strings tangled. It became hard to tell which string is attached to what. I spent a lot of time maintaining, untangling everything and monitoring the cracks between things to see if any thread led into the dark. I stopped inviting people over. It was too tiring to explain. No explanation I could give seemed adequate. I knew it was strange, but it made me feel safer. I was in complete control, the puppet master in this colorful world. There were other problems too. The slightest movement would cause a chain reaction. The strings constantly quivered and rustled softly with only the slightest touch. Even a breeze through an open window was enough to cause constant motion. I always saw movement in my periphery, only to realize it was the string when I turned to check. At night, I'd wake up because several strands would swipe softly against my skin. Once I realized it was just the string, I'd relax and fall back asleep. But that initial moment, half asleep when you feel an unexpected touch, terrifying. After a while, I got used to the poking and prodding of the strings and stopped noticing, until the night I woke up on the floor. I wasn't sure why I'd woken up at first, reaching for the black light on my nightstand, only to realize I was touching carpet. Unable to see in the dark, I waited for my eyes to adjust. Before long, the furniture around me took shape, only slightly darker than the blackness around me. Once I was better oriented, I was able to sit up and reach the nightstand. I felt resistance as I found the light, and realized with the neon illumination that I had somehow become tangled in the strings. Thick bundles of cord were coiled around my calves and left elbow, pulled taut. The string stretched out the door and down the hall, vibrating and twisting, braiding together as though to form a thick rope. I tried to reach down and untangle myself, but it was too difficult. Panic set in when my body unexpectedly moved. The knots tightened by a sharp pull. I slid across the carpet towards the door, becoming more tangled as I struggled. I caught the door frame with my free hand before I could be yanked out, the door frame creaking in protest as the wood strained and warped. I heard things breaking in another room, and the soft scrape of objects being dragged. All of the strings were moving in one direction. The persistent tug didn't stop. My grip grew weaker as I held on for dear life until my sweaty fingers slipped. Splinters of wood bit into my skin, and once again I was reeled into the deepening darkness. Down the hall. I fumbled for furniture, anything I could catch on to, and found nothing. I felt like the fish on the end of a line, the catch of some unseen monstrosity in the dark.
All right, and we are back from the amazing excerpt. I have the author here, Penny Tailsup. And Penny, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well, thank you.
Yeah, that was rather terrifying. If anybody, obviously you just listened to the excerpt, check your couches before you do anything, because it is very terrifying. Now, this sprouted out from an actual fear that you had, correct?
That is correct, as embarrassing as it is to admit. A lot of my stuff, it's usually, there's a little seed of actual fear that I experience in there somewhere.
Well, I tell you what, for somebody who can write that stuff down and turn it into an amazing fictional story, it takes a lot. So I commend you for that. Because it's not only a good story, it's very entertaining, you know, and the fact that you do these things online on YouTube, You have visuals with it. I mean, it's a different kind of writing experience. Now, how long have you been doing the writing and recording stuff?
I've been doing the writing since probably second grade, but I've only started recording in this past year. I've only recently felt like I could share my work. It's a whole new ballgame for me now, but I've been doing it forever. I got the idea of recording it from listening to other YouTubers who would narrate these creepypasta no-sleep stories.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a coward. I'll tell you that up front. I am a huge coward, but while I'm at work and I'm listening to these stories, I get so sucked in, and I don't really have time to read anymore. I'm a college student, and I also work full-time. I don't have time to sit down and read, but I do have time to listen to a story while I'm at work. And that made me realize, well, maybe I can get in on this, start sharing my work, and see if they resonate with anyone. I don't even really care about being successful. I just want to share my stories and see what might happen from there. But there's no real goal. And I'm rambling because I'm nervous on this little interview. But
don't feel bad. I don't know why people think this is such a nervous experience. But no, you do an excellent job. I've read some of the comments on your YouTube page. I've actually participated in a couple of the comments only because it really is intriguing. It's something that, you know, you listen to an audiobook, right? And you can get sucked into a story very easily. Now, you basically, before you even publish anything, you don't really publish anything. You just take it directly to the web, which is an amazing way of getting your voice out there because honestly, the web is where things are happening. And if you're an author, and I've talked about Wattpad before on this show, if you're an author and you're out there and you want to try something out, definitely give it a shot. And, you know, that's another thing that I'm kind of wondering, because we talk a lot about editing on this show. We talk about editing your work and going through it. Do you find that reading your work out loud helps you edit a lot of those mistakes, like before you actually record it?
Absolutely. I probably read everything out loud at least 15 or 20 times per paragraph as I'm writing it. And then I read it out loud again and I'm done. And I always find that there's little rough spots. I learned a lot from doing narrations because when you read something quietly in your head, it'll sound a lot different. But when you actually have to read it out loud and you have to breathe, for example, it turns out a lot differently. So it's actually been really beneficial to my writing and pacing because I would write something and go, okay, but will I actually be able to narrate this?
Yeah. I mean, you don't want a sentence that's going to last on forever, and then all of a sudden you realize I should have put a comma in there because my face is all turning blue. You know, but yeah, I mean, you're doing an excellent job. I really appreciate it. I've listened to quite a few of your stories. I'm sure other people out there have too. You have a very unique voice for something like this, which is, you know, part of the charisma of what you're doing is that you have a unique voice for this. I wouldn't want to say it's not like a scary voice. I don't even know how to describe it. It's almost like that inner voice that's inside your head that basically is where our fears lie. And you've captured it so well. And I don't know if this is just your normal voice. Is that it?
It's not my normal voice. It is my, I hope nobody hears me recording voice.
You don't want any people in the other room hearing you. Oh, I got you.
I live in an apartment and I don't even talk much in real life. Whenever I record, that's probably the most talking I've done all day. I'm a very quiet person. And when I'm doing my narrations, I'm usually kind of half whispering it because, for one, I feel like that suits the tone of a horror story.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's secretive and mysterious. But also, I don't want to bother anybody. And I don't want them to go, what is she doing in there? But I don't talk like that. But I don't really talk much at all, so people probably wouldn't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're doing a great job. It sounds really good, and I hope you keep it going. Now, do you post on any other writing platforms other than YouTube?
Yes, I kind of started out on No Sleep, the subreddit. I also have my own personal website, pennytailsup.com. I haven't really spread out much from there, but I have had one of my stories published on the Creepypasta Wiki. And a few other people have asked, hey, can I show this story on my Facebook page, for example? So they're kind of everywhere at this point, but I mainly stick with No Sleep and my own personal website.
Now, have you thought about publishing any books from the stories that you've written?
Yes. Actually, I have several anthologies I'm working on right now.
Wow.
Not just my own personal anthologies, but I'm submitting stories to anthologies. I'm putting together one of my own. And I actually have a couple short stories that I want to adapt into a novel-length story.
Well, that's good.
But I have so many projects that I'm working on at once that I could not tell you which one's happening first. Could not tell you. I don't know.
Yeah, and you never know, too. I mean, sometimes you just fall into something like that, you know, especially those anthologies. I've checked them out on Amazon. You might have 12 different authors all collaborating on one big book, and each story is individual of its own, but they're all so good that really it does draw quite a bit of sales, too, because you have 12 different authors who know how many different people who are willing to purchase that book. So it does work out for the best in a lot of cases. So yeah, definitely do it. It sounds like a fun thing to do. Now, I do have another question here. What do you like to write most? Fiction stories or stories that have impacted your life? Because I know that you did one about a work event that you had at Walmart that was quite chilling, okay? Especially since it had a real base to it. What do you like writing most, the fiction or the more real stuff?
I prefer fiction.
Mm-hmm.
Fiction is a little more exciting, even if I have these true stories, and I do have a lot. It's never as scary as you can predict the ending a lot of the times with the real stories, in my opinion. I did a little compilation of my Walmart years, but each of those stories is pretty short, and I feel like people who heard them were probably like, yep, that sounds like when I worked there.
Mm-hmm.
But writing fiction, you actually can do that sucker punch of surprise, and people don't really know what to expect because anything can happen. You're constrained by reality, and reality is a little predictable, in my opinion.
Yeah, it can be. Especially like, you know, if you have to go to work every day, like you know, my day, because I mean, this is one of the projects that I do. It's not the only project that I do. The other one is real life, and I have to go to work every day, and that is predictable. It is really. But anyhow, less about me here. Now, you create all your own visuals and video in your videos. How do you start? Do you record the story first and then listen to it to make the images, or how does that work?
To be honest, it really depends. Sometimes I'll have the art drawn before I've even written the story. I'll draw something and I'll go, I don't know what this is for yet. And then later on I'll go, okay, it's for this. And sometimes I've already recorded everything. I'm ready to post it, but I don't have any visuals. And I'm like, okay, draw me. And sometimes it turns out well and sometimes it doesn't. As I've gotten more experience with this, I've started to plan better. I'm still very new to this game. I'm still figuring out what I'm doing. I would not be confident in anything I tell you, honestly, because I'm not an expert. I don't pretend to be. I'm just having fun right now.
Well, that's the best part about writing, is that you can have fun. You can take your reader, whoever it may be, even if it's yourself, into a whole nother world that, you know, they would have not had the opportunity to be in. Just like with any story that I've read, it's just, you want that escape. You know, you want that escape from the normal everyday. And I honestly, with just the excerpt that you had here with the show, it pulls you in enough to say, you know what? I am terrified about my couch now on a regular basis, and thank you so much, Penny, for doing that to me. But yeah, it's a great way to get your name out there and get your work out there and let it see what it does. Because just like you said, you're just getting started. You know, your thing could go into a million different directions. This show is going to go into another direction soon. So, being a creative like you, I can understand the things that you're going through as far as where do I want to go with this? How far do I want to take it? You know, which shows are coming up with the most comments. And just like I said, you got two different types of writing there, and they're both really good. You know, now I have another question here for you. You listen to your audience quite a bit, right? You come up with things that intrigue them. What else do you have in the works for your audio stories?
Right now, I'm working on more collaborations with others. I've actually appeared on a couple of other channels, just voicing other characters, for example. I've also worked on a couple stories that I'm going to give channels exclusive rights to. so that I can see what other people do with my work. I've even come up with a game I'm going to be playing with my audience soon enough, but that won't be for another couple months probably. I'm working on an ARG, an augmented reality game or alternate reality game where the readers actually will get to have participation. Well, they'll be able to participate and affect the outcome of the story based on their input and feedback on the story.
That's an awesome idea. I've seen those before. I've seen them before. And you know what? I remember back when I was a little kid, and they used to have these books where you could read through it and it'd say, turn to page 12 if you want this to happen, turn to page 8 if you want this to happen. I used to love those stories. And then, I'd see them on YouTube too, where you'd have to click a link or something in order to make the choice, and then it would take you to another portion of another video on another page of the YouTube site, and then you would get to see the rest of the story. That's such a cool idea. You should really do that. That's awesome.
That is in the works. I'm working on the story now, but because of how it's being built, I have to anticipate the different directions it can end up going and have paths for all these different choices people might make. And that's where it gets a little sticky, but it's fun. And I'm also finding ways to include not just YouTube, but social media, like my Twitter or my No Sleep page, so that people can discover this story from different avenues and stumble on in and see, okay, what's going on with this? So that's where I'm going with it now, but I'm still also going to continue writing and narrating my short stories on my channel. And I'm going to continue writing and seeing about publishing my stories also. So I'm not limiting myself to any one avenue. I'm tackling all of them and seeing what happens.
Yeah, well, it's incredible, and I'm looking forward to that. So if you do that, I mean, I'm already following you on YouTube, and I advise everybody else out there to follow Penny on YouTube. What is your YouTube handle?
Penny Tailsup.
Okay, so it's real simple. It's just your name. Okay, that's perfect. Yeah, it sounds like an intriguing idea. I'm going to be watching for it too. So now I have another question here. Now you come from the customer service background, and so do I. Okay, I'm wondering do you kind of get some characterization from some of the customers that you've met over the years? Because I mean, I remember when I was working in customer service, everybody is individual. Everybody is different. For one, you find a love and a hate for just about everybody, but you kind of come up with these characters in your own mind. Do you do the same thing with your customer service?
Yes, but I usually kind of mix people together because I don't want somebody to listen to a story and go, I know exactly who she's talking about.
Yeah.
I'm trying to avoid that.
Yeah, that would be.
But I definitely.
Yeah, that would be pretty bad. But, it happens to authors all the time, I mean, you have Aunt Gladys who's just like, all right, why did you write me into this book? Just because you never know. It's like, well, Aunt Gladys, you've really inspired me. Well, why do I have to be like this in the book?
I did sort of fall into that trap a little bit with one of my first short stories. I wrote this story, and the main character is a man, but I based his characteristics on how I feel when people nag me. And when my mother heard it, she said, oh, you're talking about me.
Oh, no.
And I was. So
oh, no, that's really bad.
She got me. And it didn't even really occur to me that she would know exactly where that came from. Because in that story, the main character was nagged about smoking, whereas I drew the inspiration from how my mom would nag me about when I was eating junk food.
Oh, boy.
And just the way that I phrased it, even though it wasn't me, it was a male character, different problem. She's like, I know exactly where you got that, and I'm not that bad.
Well, see, I mean, and that's the thing, though, is to pull from certain aspects of relationships between people, like you and your mother, are good ways of building characters. I mean, honestly, even though you have a unique relationship with your mother, I can almost bet you that just about everybody relates to your characters only because they've been in the same boat at one time or another, and they feel the same way. So that's a great way to build characters. I would say to your mother, don't feel bad. At least you're in the story somehow,
Oh, she didn't feel bad. She caught me and she knew it.
So now you said you've been doing this for just a short amount of time, which is okay. I've been doing this for a short amount of time. We haven't even been on, doing this podcast thing for maybe 4 months now. I think I can't remember. Anyhow, what advice would you give somebody who is just starting out YouTube creating or getting into the world of collaboration, anything that you're currently involved in?
Okay, one thing that I would absolutely say to anybody, not even just creating, is learn to tell the difference between trolling and actual criticism. It can be really disheartening because everybody who will see what you present to the world is going to have an opinion about it. You're going to need to learn just pretty early on how to tell whether or not you need to take that seriously or if they are just somebody who's having a bad day and is taking it out on you. Because it is not all sunshine and roses. Not everybody is nice. Most people are nice, but you need to have thick skin and you need to learn to tell the difference.
Yeah, that's some really good advice. Now, I'm wondering if you would be interested in participating in a trivia game with me.
Let's give it a shot.
All right. Now, before we begin this trivia game, I need you to pick a house that you will be playing for. Here are your choices: Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, and Slytherin.
Oh, Ravenclaw all the way.
Ravenclaw. I kind of had a feeling you would be a Ravenclaw person. I'm more of a Gryffindor person anyhow. So here we go. This is the Harry Potter Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry Tri-Wizard Cup quiz. And I hope you're ready.
I hope so too.
All right. Here we go. Question 1. What is Dumbledore's first name?
Albus.
All right, 10 points to Ravenclaw. And this is a bonus point question. Do you know the other names of Albus Dumbledore?
Oh my gosh, that's a mean question. He has a lot.
Yes, he does.
I would be lying if I said I did. Wow, I guess I'm not as big of a fan as I thought.
That's okay, because I didn't know this before I looked it up. But it is Albus, Percival, Wulfric, Brian, Dumbledore. All right, you ready for the next question?
Yes.
Well,
the Brian threw me for a loop.
Yeah, Brian throws everybody. Okay, here's the next question. What was Victor Crumb's wand's core made of?
Was it dragon heartstring?
Yes, good job. And that's going to be 20 points to Ravenclaw. All right, the next one. Charlie Weasley is a dragon keeper. Where does he work? And I'm looking for a country name.
I'm not sure. Is there a timer involved in this game?
No, there's not. The answer was Romania. Romania.
Oh man, I should have known that. Oh my gosh, now that I hear it, I'm like, duh.
Yeah, and that's where they keep all the dragons in the first place, is in Romania. So, I mean, they wouldn't be anywhere else. Anyhow, here's the next question. When is Harry Potter's birthday? And I'm looking for the day and the month. It could also be his birthday, according to Hagrid.
It is July 31st.
Yes, all right. I'm going to give you 20 points to Ravenclaw. All right.
I wish I sounded more confident.
Well, that's okay, because you got it right. It doesn't matter if you're confident or not. Okay, here's the next one. What is Hermione's middle name?
Oh, Hermione. Oh, man. Jean.
Yes, it is. It is Jean. Wow, 20 points to Ravenclaw.
I was like, it's Jean or Joan, and I was...
Yeah,
I didn't want to be wrong.
Well, you did a good job. All right, here's the next one. This one should be good. I like this whole segment of the Harry Potter saga. What plant will allow Harry to breathe underwater?
Gillyweed.
Yes, 20 points to Ravenclaw. And the next one. What position does Harry Potter play in Quidditch?
Seeker.
Oh my gosh, that was a bonus question, and you also got 60 points to Ravenclaw. Here's the next one. What magical object can transport a wizard to another place? And it's also used...
Portkey.
Yes, it is. And it's also used in the Magical Beasts and Where to Find Them. So that's like a double twofer. We're going to just give you 120 points to Ravenclaw. I'm not sure what you're going to do with all these points. They really aren't good for anything. But anyhow, you got plenty of them. Here we go. Here's the next question. What house was Moaning Myrtle sorted into?
Was it Hufflepuff?
No. Very close.
Darn it.
And all the poor Ravenclaw comrades have just lowered their wands. It was Ravenclaw. So
What?
yes, it was.
I betrayed them.
Yep. That is 40 points taken away from the House of Ravenclaw. No.
Rude.
Yeah, I know. Well, they're already feeling bad. So I feel so. All right, 20 or 40 points back to Ravenclaw. Okay, here we go. You got 2 more questions left. Here's the next one. What type of quill does wizarding journalist Rita Skeeter use?
Oh man, I know this, but my brain does not want to cooperate with me.
It is the one quill that every kid wishes they had. It is the Quick Quotes quill. Writes on its own. I'm not sure, but I think it writes whatever it wants to write. It'd be a whole different story if that was the case. But all right, here we go. This is the final bonus question. This can swipe all of the other points away, and it can destroy all of the Slytherin points that have been gained over the course of the last 6 or 7 books. So this is for 2,900,003,226.5 points if you can get this right. Are you ready?
Uh-huh.
All right. Here we go. What is the name of the Malfoy house elf?
Dobby.
Yes, it is Dobby, and you have won the game with some kind of trillion,
A lot.
billion, something awarded to Ravenclaw. Slytherin has now received negative some billion and something. So yes, congratulations, you have won the Harry Potter Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry Tri-Wizard Cup Quiz. Congratulations.
Thank you. It was an honor.
And thank you for being on the show. And I'd like to remind everybody else out there to check out Penny Tailsup on YouTube and Twitter. And you said on where else again?
My personal website is pennytailsup.com.
All right. And thank you again for being on the show. It was fun.
Thank you for having me. I really had fun too.
All right. Well, this is Emit Blackwell signing out. Keep on reading and keep on writing, my friends.
Searching the web for the most talented, creative, and intriguing independent authors.
I felt like the fish on the end of a line, the catch of some unseen monstrosity in the dark.
The Emit Blackwell Show, diving into the creative minds of sci-fi, fantasy, horror, and paranormal authors. Their fantasy is our reality.